Welcome to Volume 11 Roctalk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music. Your hosts, Rich Hoffa, Rick Lawhorn, and Mark Dunn. Roctalk, Volume 11 Music.
Hey, how's it going? This is Volume 11 Music Rock Talk in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm Rich.
Rick Lawhorn.
Mark Dunn.
All right. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are really enjoying the videos. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, send us a comment. You know, we're getting a lot of really cool comments, so we enjoy reading them. And if you ever have a future episode, you know, put that in a comment. We'd like to get to it. So we just recently did the the new bands. I think that turned out pretty well. I mean, we got some really cool bands.
Well, not really new bands, but not well-known bands.
Known, especially not known. There's ones that, heck, it was the first time I ever seen them, so they were great.
For sure.
But so we're going to start off with a little tech tip today, a little funny story that happened about an hour ago. And,
this tech tip brought to you by the Diodario Montessori School for Imbeciles. So when you buy this, it has it looks like the tuner right there is already on, and you hit the button after you take the little protector from the battery being engaged, and you start to tune, and it stays on that same note.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, that's a sticker.
Yeah. Yeah,
which I didn't know, because it lights up behind it. It looks like it's actually working.
So Mark comes out of his studio and goes, "Rich, is there a trick to this thing?" We start, and I'm hitting buttons and stuff, and I see that little tab, and I go, pull it off, and Mark's like, "Oh, Jesus!"
Ta-da. Like I said, I mean, I might not be the sharpest knife in the set of Hinkles, but it's I'm just letting you know, when you get this for the low price of $14.99 here at Volume 11 Music, that
pull the sticker
off, and there you have it. So
that's it. Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can?
Oh, I was laughing.
It was great. It was a good time.
I'm like, are you serious? Why even do that? I've never seen a tuner do that. That's the only one.
That's great. That's great. So we came up with a couple of episodes. We're going to talk about, we've always talked about guitar players. We've talked about some drummers. We haven't talked about just bass players in general that we really like and that we think that are kind of a pinnacle of rock music.
You know who else never talks about bass players? Girls never talk about bass players.
Oh, right. Yeah, I seen I think it was a picture the other day. It's like guitar player, the thought, and then you see the guitar player with all these girls, and then it's got reality, guitar player, 10 guitars, and a cat.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Anyhow,
bass player. You're playing with a pretty big name bass player
that
we all love, and it's coming up. A couple weeks?
So no, well, yeah. I mean, this is Thursday, April 3rd. Today's my birthday.
Oh,
thank you. I'm 29. 29 again.
29 again.
Next week on the we normally would do this for gigs, but on the 11th, I'm going to be in Nashville. And I'm gonna play a small set with Billy Sheehan on bass.
Yeah, that's gonna be really awesome.
And
legend
with Joel Ellis from Cats and Boots and Heavy Bones, which was with Frankie Benali and Gary Hoey. And so it's me and Billy. Keyboard player I haven't met yet, but he toured with Mountain and a veteran. And my drummer Trip Johnson, thankfully, is going to come down. He's
great.
So we're pretty excited about that, and Billy's a really sweet guy, and obviously a wonderful musician and a wonderful bass player. And the only thing I've had to remind myself, and I keep reminding myself as I work on the material, is when I'm playing, I got to remember not to just watch him as a fan.
Right.
I'm actually in the band at the moment. So they're going, "Oh man, that's Billy Sheehan."
That's Billy Sheehan.
Wow. How did he do that?
Right. Yeah. I got a job to do, so I'm looking forward to that. And
that's going to be awesome.
And it's going to be I think it's a sold out event for the Rock and Pop in Nashville. Yeah. So I'm excited to have been invited, and to be able to play with such wonderful musicians. And there's going to be a lot of cool players. And one of the guys that was on that metal show is hosting it.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to
gonna
that.
be great.
Yeah.
And Billy's definitely going to be somebody we discuss.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
he's
sure.
a legend.
Yeah, Billy's pretty awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing Billy. Of course, we knew how great he was, but Rick and I, of course, we went out to the NAMM show in the
1989, January of 89, Anaheim, California. Yeah.
And Billy was there. We ran over to listen to him play because he was supposed to do a demo.
It was with Yamaha.
Yeah,
I remember. I still remember it. Yeah.
But he basically didn't play. He just sat there and talked to everybody.
He just chit-chatted.
He just chit-chatted. And then I think it was maybe that evening. We went to there was a bowling party.
From Ibanez.
From Ibanez, yeah. Billy was there. He's bowling right next to us.
Yep.
I actually got a picture of him getting ready to swing a ball.
I remember that.
Overhead down the lane.
It was him and Paul Gilbert, legendary.
Both those guys are like 6'20", aren't they?
Yeah, well, I'm
Billy's
6'2", and he's
tall.
probably about my height, and Paul's about 6'6".
So I do have a picture
he's
of
like-
Billy in bowling shoes. So
Yeah,
we
we
had
did.
cool back in the day.
I don't
You
think
got
those were
bowling
his,
shoes?
those were. They just happened to be the shoes he was wearing, and he
I'm
was in
gonna go bowling. Yeah. 'Cause they were just putting together Mr. Big.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a band called Mr. Big, and Paul just left Racer X, and so then of course Billy legend, and of course he played with David Lee Roth,
And he had done the skyscraper record.
Right, exactly.
'Cause when I met him back then, it was around that same time. He had just announced he wasn't going to do the tour.
the tour. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I have pictures of me from that same NAMM show with Billy.
Yeah.
And I'm like 18, and I'm going to find him, and I'm going to take one up to him next week. I'm going to go, hey, man, do you want me to sign this for you?
That'd be great. That'd be
See what he
great.
says.
Yeah, so and we had Vinnie Moore playing Pac-Man, guitar shredder Vinnie Moore.
It was great.
fun.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Maybe we should have a NAMM show stories episode.
We could.
Yeah, we could do that. We had some good ones.
Yeah.
From the trip there.
So Billy happens to be the topic of conversation, but other bass players that
a lot of
rank,
great. Steve Harris.
Of course, in that realm, I mean,
Yeah.
Steve was the first person, and still one of the only ones. I think Billy can do all four.
Oh yeah,
as well.
he can do as well.
But
yeah.
just to be able
Multiple
to
finger
run them,
runs.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's
stuff.
incredible.
And then you had Tony Levin, who took that to a different
King
realm
Crimson,
by using those little hammers,
Right,
those
I remember
finger
seeing
extension things.
Yeah.
And I think that was born of a studio session that he was just trying to get a different tone
Yeah.
on the attack of the bass, and it was like he did something. Then it became a thing.
Yeah.
I still think he's the only one that does it.
Yeah.
Looks a little creepy, like Freddy Krueger. but it's an interesting sound, and he uses all four.
Right.
Or actually all, maybe the thumbs, and four on the fingers.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And he plays basically. Also, he plays the stick, the Chapman stick.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's almost like a tapping style thing. 'Cause you're hitting,
is.
right. I mean, the whole thing you're hitting like that. So, well, the great King Crimson albums, especially the early '80s.
Yeah.
Discipline, Beat, Three of a Perfect Pair, great music. Tony Levin.
And he's also on one of my top. I probably should have mentioned this album in our top 5 Desert Island albums.
Peter Gabriel.
He's on So.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel. Wonderful stuff.
And it might have been that album that he came out
Could
with
have
those
been.
things.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they created they wrote the album in the studio.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's like I always liked it. Well, especially bass players that had serious chops, but ones where you didn't have a rhythm guitar player, so they're not just hitting single notes. They're doing,
filling it out,
out that sound. I mean,
Jack Bruce.
I was gonna say Jack Bruce with Cream.
Oh yeah,
you got a trio. Clapton obviously, and then Ginger Baker, and then Jagger just fill up all the sound. And
but I will tell you this much: if I got hired to be a bass player on a tour, a massive tour or whatever, rock bass player, country or whatever, I would go and learn Abbey Road and Revolver, and I'd have all of the things I would need to be a formidable bass player, because in my opinion, Paul McCartney's played nothing but perfect parts for his entire existence. And I don't mean funk or
No, right.
I'm not talking about Join the Chili Peppers. I'm just saying that his phrasing and his use of... I mean, when you listen to some of the Beatles songs, like a ballad like Something, everything is laid back.
Yes.
Right.
Except him.
Yeah. He's playing beautiful, like melodic phrasing,
and busy.
It's very,
so
very
it's
busy,
like,
and it adds to the arrangement.
100%.
Yeah.
So I think Paul, and also Paul was Jaco Pastorius' favorite bass player.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and Jaco being somebody that,
legend.
Unbelievable.
ridiculous.
I mean, everywhere we're talking about is just awesome.
Oh yeah,
it's
I mean,
all
there's
good,
so
no
many
bad.
bass players. It's
And
like,
Bootsy Collins, the
Bootsy, yeah.
entertainment evaluator.
He's cool.
Oh, God. He's the best.
Yeah,
it's like I was
super
bringing
cool.
up the Who.
John Entwistle.
John
Yeah,
Entwistle.
great. I mean, especially like a Evanescence front, or you just see him doing those. He just sits back there and just does all those runs and
Fills the
stuff. I mean,
sound really.
He does.
He was
you know,
the first
I mean,
one that
really,
had
really.
piano tone,
Right.
I
yeah.
think.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
When
a
you
great.
hear his bass sound
Yeah.
is like a giant Steinway left of middle C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, huge sound.
Yeah,
Huge sound.
and I think too, like in early rock and roll, sometimes it's hard to make out what the bass is. I mean, bass is in there, you sort of know it's there,
Yeah.
but to really definitively hear the notes, and with like you're right with the Who, I mean, it's there.
Loud
Yeah,
and proud.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think him and Peter were just in competition for volume.
And Keith Moon beat the drums. It's like you got to rise above all that volume there.
I mean,
to get yourself heard. You know?
I actually, speaking of NAMM shows, I flew from Pittsburgh to L.A. I got to the gate in Pittsburgh, and there's John Entwistle.
Wow.
On my flight.
That's so
and this
cool.
is back when I'm a kid, so I've got a Sony Discman, and I've got Hendrix CDs and Beatles CDs, a Stone CD, of course, a Van Halen CD or two, but nary a freaking Who CD. I'm like, dang it. I could have walked up to him and said,
Signed by Hendrix CD.
Hey, you knew Jimmy, right? Would you mind
Yeah,
signing this?
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it was
Exactly.
yeah, it was
Pretty
pretty
funny
cool
stuff.
I mean, it's just, and I was starstruck because
Yeah.
you're in Pittsburgh. I mean, I know we're going to LA, but I didn't expect to see John Entwistle there, and God knows, I mean, I'd seen so much of him, and I just sat there in awe, thinking about all the things he had done.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm getting my space. I'm gonna talk to him.
Oh yeah.
Am I boring you that much?
No, I had a rough weekend.
Rough weekend.
and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But
Interesting
yeah,
conversation,
yeah. So but it's just some other great. One of the ones that blew me away too. Rick and I went to another good bass player, Kenny Ames, local
friend of ours.
But we went to we see Satriani at the Bayou.
Joe
in Georgetown,
Satriani,
and
yeah.
Stu Ham.
Stu Ham on bass. Yes.
Unbelievable.
Sick
Yeah.
player.
Yeah, and
Just
he had like
absolutely
everything:
sick.
the tapping, the slapping. He
Yeah.
did the Charlie Brown theme with the two-handed
I know.
tapping
Oh, yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, he
it was
was
just mind-blowing.
And great tone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great tone.
And then your boy from Yes.
Right? I was going to go there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Chris Squire.
That's Fragile is almost like bass school.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yes.
from roundabout to long distance run around to the fish or whatever that's called. To I mean, the great tone and I mean the lines he was playing. It's like step aside, Steve. I got this.
Yeah, right.
And then to stand on stage like a flamenco with.
Yeah, that's
like
right. And he had these long capes.
Flamingo,
Remember the long capes of the
Yeah,
guys?
yeah,
in Yes?
yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
gotta have a really cool long cape
yeah.
to be in a progressive rock band like Yes, but he can rock the bass. Using a pick also.
Yeah.
Breaking the rules of I remember when I was a kid, all the older guys. You gotta play your fingers, which I love, but I mean Chris Squire's up there with the pick, just grinding it out, and
Crushing it.
doing all that
Yeah.
crazy, close to the edge, and the Relayer album from Yes is phenomenal. And
Any new or modern bass players you guys would say?
Well, I would consider Billy new and modern. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he's been well known for 35 years. But I remember seeing, not to belabor the point, I remember seeing him in Spotlight from Mike Varney. And it was like, 80? And now probably 82.
82. I remember that. It was Talus.
And Billy
Playing with
Sheehan has
Talus.
over 1,000 gigs.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Because he's from
Yeah.
Buffalo,
I'm like-
New York,
I'm
right?
like,
And
wow, 1,000
Billy-
gigs. And now I'm
yeah.
like at 3,500 myself.
Yeah.
Like, where's my
that was
magazine?
right.
But when you think about the modern guys, I think that some of the, it's like what makes a bass player stand out is almost their subtlety. I mean, you could argue Bill Wyman's an amazing bass player.
Well, I've always liked the Stones.
Yeah, but I mean, there wasn't anything about him that made him a bass player.
Yeah.
Or made him a great
great,
bass
but he
player.
locks in.
Right.
Yeah.
And also you have to consider that none of these bass players. I mean, that's a sweeping generalization, but that's part of a thing where that's tethered to the drum, to the drummer. So, Chris Squire probably wouldn't have been able to do that without Bill Bruford.
Right, that
You know what I
Bruford
mean?
combination.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, Mark. And then, of course, Bruford left, to go to King Crimson back in the early 70s. And then they brought in Alan White, and Alan White was the drummer on Relayer. And there's some very interesting things, but it's a different vibe to it. But it's still the fantastic talents, of course, of Chris Squire. But you're right, the way Bruford locks in with Chris Squire.
Jimmy
is
Johnson.
great.
Bass player for Alan Holdsworth.
Alan Holdsworth,
Mike Landau. I've seen him twice at the Baked Potato in Los Angeles, and he reads the show.
Wow.
I mean, walks in with his Olympic bass, hangs it up on the hook on the wall, breaks out his chart.
Wow.
Nobody else is reading.
He's reading off the
show.
Wow. No, I know he's phenomenal chops there. Definitely.
And I mean, when you play with Holdsworth,
you're at the they're on your A game.
Exactly.
yeah. So I know that that's not a household name.
Right.
So some of the, and then Leland Sklar. Leland Sklar, for anybody that doesn't know, is the bass player that looks like he would be in the Muppet Band. So, and that's the best way to describe him. He's got this glorious.
Mark Dunn is
But he does.
He
Am I wrong?
If the Muppets had a rock band,
They did.
They did. Then they bring in like a real human bass player. He would be the guy. Right?
He's got the glorious beard and receding hairline. And he's just a monster.
Yeah.
He's been on so many sessions and played on so many albums. And he toured with Toto. He was in Toto for a minute. So that's one that you can't not think about. And I'm just trying to think of session guys too that are
the unsung heroes. Because they don't really get a lot of recognition, but they're great.
What's her name? Carol Kay.
Carol Kay.
Yeah, she just turned 90 the other day.
I saw that. 90 years old.
Part of the Wrecking Crew, and she played guitar as well.
Yeah.
And those, that was a time when they would show up for work for their 9 to 5, and they'd have an amp right in front of them on a chair, and then the sheet would sit next to it, and they would run down 20 songs.
Yeah. All day long. Just crank
crazy
them.
Thing about that.
Oh yeah. Well, what about Flea?
Oh, of course.
Great
amazing
bass player.
Amazing bass player.
I mean, and that's interesting too, because I think Flea with Chad Smith is a different bass player than he was with the other guy.
Right.
No disrespect to the other drummer.
Yeah.
But
different.
You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah,
I get it.
And then, I think, and I'm being fair here, for once I'm not going to snark on Metallica. I thought Cliff Burton was interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm a Cliff Burton fan. I mean, for like the metal scene, what he did on those. I mean, sadly, we only got a few albums after the tragic accident that took his life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we got the first 3 albums from Metallica, full-length albums, and Cliff really took metal bass playing to a new level. Nothing but high respect for
Wah-wah
Cliff.
and distortion.
Yeah,
and
Cliff Burton and
Anesthesia
off the Kill 'Em All records got a really cool bass solo there. Anesthesia with Cliff.
Is that the one with the wah-wah?
He's using wah, and some fuzz and just kind of some distorted types of tones.
Pro 2,
right.
Yeah.
And definitely very, when you look at where metal was, I mean, there's a lot of cool metal, but he kind of brought something, new.
No, he was his own thing.
New deck of cards to the table. So
that's why, not to belabor them, but I always considered them to be a punk metal band, not in the sense of actual punk sound, but their attitude was very punk in that
Right.
way. Another one would be what's the guy's name from Level 42?
Mark King. Excellent bass player. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Right,
Can't see him out on record. I mean, that's their one hit, I think.
But there's some wonderful bass work on all the Level 42.
That dude's a
Mark
monster.
King,
Well, Robert from Metallica, the newer bass player.
Robert Trujillo.
He's freaking unbelievable as well. And didn't he play with Infectious Grooves?
Well, he was with the Infectious Grooves. He did a lot of funk metal.
Yeah.
So he's doing a lot of slap kind of stuff, which is amazing.
Infectious Grooves was a great band.
Yep. Funk metal. Good
Funkadelic.
stuff.
Tom Hamilton.
Yeah.
From Aerosmith, laying down the groove.
Came up with one of the most famous bass hooks ever in the history of ever.
Yeah.
Sweet Emotion.
Sweet Emotion.
Yeah.
That was his line.
Right.
They wrote the song around that bass
around
line.
that bass line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yep. And back to Paul, when I say everything he played was perfect, Tomorrow Never Knows, he doesn't change the line. It's the same thing.
Same thing.
The whole song.
Wow, okay.
And they didn't have loopers back then. So it's not like he just went dong ding dong dong ditto and just went and took a pee break. I mean, it's like a mantra on the bass.
Yeah. I need to go back and re-listen to that again. I mean, I've heard it obviously
great.
but that's very interesting.
And when you think about that, that's what I mean. Like, it's not just the ability to shred, or it's find that part that is what makes, like if it's just find that part that no matter how simple or how difficult it is, it's got to be the right part.
Yeah.
And who else was an awesome bass player? Prince.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, well,
Prince.
he
So he
played
did everything. I think, right? I
everything
mean,
good.
he played like
Good
17-inch
player,
guitar and
all that stuff,
arranging
And now I'm gonna, our goal is to ruin the way you listen to music.
all right.
And now I'm gonna ruin the way you listen to music. When you listen to When Doves Cry, I noticed that there's no bass on that at all. None.
Nothing.
No bass.
Wow.
Drum machine, guitar intro at the beginning.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
And then the little hook.
That's it.
Yeah.
No bass.
And the craziest thing is, if he wanted to, he could have played probably the most awesome, amazing bass
There
line ever.
probably was bass on it.
But yeah.
I guarantee you he laid
Yeah.
a bass track down.
Right. Right.
And said, nah.
Yeah, and just pulled it.
Oh, we're
Just
mixing.
like that.
Wasn't that what Metallica did on Injustice for All? Like the bass doesn't even really hardly exist on that record. The actual bass guitar.
It's
That was a
pretty
G-
thin.
It's probably in there a little bit, but I mean, compared to what they had with Cliff Burton, you don't really hear a lot of.
They weren't sure about Newstead. Like, he came down in the mix a little bit. We're not sure about this
pull it
guy.
down, pull it down. Yeah, I think that's kind of the way they went on that.
But I mean, there's there's probably a bunch of session guys in Nashville too that have been on every freaking country album that you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And we don't know their names, and they probably just shred.
It was like talking about bass lines. I was just thinking about the bass line for the Extreme. Get the funk out.
That's got a cool little yeah.
That's Pat Badger.
Pat Badger, that's
great,
right. Yeah,
great
playing, of course,
bass line.
Nuno ripping on the guitar over top
Yeah.
of that, but good stuff, definitely.
Well, you got a good. We'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah.
But rhythm section, when you got a
That's
guitar
gonna be
player
fun.
like that,
Right, right.
the rhythms or the whole bottom drops out if they're not playing well. So
Yeah.
There's that.
yeah,
There's that. And back to so you guys saw night 2 of Eat 'Em and Smile, and I saw
Yeah.
night 1 in Hampton.
Yeah.
And my brother John took me because I was still just a kid, and he was not able to discern who was doing the solos. Because remember that on that
Oh,
show?
yeah, I remember. I was right there,
Their
yeah.
solo was a tandem.
It
solo.
was, yeah.
And it was like, what is going
crazy.
on? It was nuts.
And for me, I'm lucky enough, fortunate to say, I've gotten to see the great Billy Sheehan very close to the stage with David Lee Roth back in '86 at You Smile. And then a few years later, '92, they played at Jack's with Mr. Big with Paul Gilbert and Billy. And both of those shows, I was lucky
Jacks
to
or
be.
Hammerjacks?
No, that was Jack's,
Jack's.
Jaxx,
Okay.
Jack's. And I was literally about 30 feet from the stage. So I'm sitting there watching Billy Sheehan and Steve Vai just melting my face and blowing my head off here. And then Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan. And just to see that up close, like that is just unbelievable rock musicianship. I mean, just fantastic bass playing. And like you said, the lines they're playing. And Billy's sitting there just going toe-to-toe with Steve Vai and Paul Gilbert. And phenomenal stuff. Great memories. So.
And I didn't bring up anybody that people would have thought I would have brought up. I haven't brought up one of those people.
Okay.
who has that been?
Oh well, of course. I mean, like my go-to for anything, is Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
And Michael Anthony's
Anthony.
a fine bass player, but he, I think Michael played the right stuff with Van Halen, but he didn't set the bass world on fire.
Yeah,
It's
right.
and I'm not.
Well, he
I'm
played
just
what
saying-
needed.
Play what needed to be there.
Yeah.
Of course, you got obviously Eddie getting the spotlight kid on all the.
And they were talking, and Eddie wanted Billy in the band.
right.
And
Yes, I have heard that.
Billy said that would have been a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And he did produce one of the easiest bass lines, but one of the most recognizable bass lines.
Ball, ball, ball,
With his teeth
ball,
still in.
ball, ball, ball. Yeah. But sometimes the easy stuff's what people remember.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my
it's got to be catchy.
Yeah, I was going to throw in John Deacon of Queen, because you go back to that Game album, and one of the huge hits, of course, was Another One Bites the Dust. And mainly, for Queen, if you listen to early Queen, there's a lot going on. Crazy harmonies, layers of guitar, all kinds of stuff. Then they get to the Game, and they made it really sparse. They cut out a lot of stuff, so it's just boom, boom, boom.
Well, they were trying to get people to dance.
Yeah, turn into a dance kind of a group there.
You go from Queen 2 to the Game.
Right.
That's two different bands.
It's too bad. I've said that. I've said the same thing. It's like listening to Queen 2 is almost like a progressive rock album. It's very complex. And then basically the Game is, like you said, a lot of dance music, a lot of just bass grooves, but they're really good, solid bass grooves from John Deacon.
Queen 2 might be Queen's best record.
That's a mind blower. The harmonies on that and Mercury's vocals are just
An epic
Yeah,
songwriting.
it's just incredible stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for John Deacon to be able to play in both styles to play complex, like on Queen 2. Almost borderline progressive rock at times, and then to play very sparse, just laying down the groove on the Game album. Dragon Attack, remember that one? I mean, great little bass line. Just got such a cool groove to it. It really kind of sets the tone of the song and the mood of the song. And,
yeah.
Dragon Attack.
It's almost like they pulled back, from the Queen 2 record where it was like a audible onslaught.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, let's make it not necessarily more sparse. The instruments were still there, but there was much more definition on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's purposeful, obviously, but
Right.
because they probably had a lot more recorded. And
Yeah.
Like I said with Prince and the bass track.
Yeah. They said, we're going to just cut it back.
Yeah,
and-
let's sparse it out.
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, cool deal. Well, I think it was a great episode of Rock Talk. And what's this, 33?
33, episode
33.
33.
Oh,
Great.
and last one, semi-local, good friend of ours, Keith Horn.
Keith, he's wonderful.
Amazing
Phenomenal.
bass
He's
player.
a great guitar player, too.
Yeah,
He
he's
can play.
one of those
He's
guys that
awesome.
he makes me angry. And he sings like a bird.
Yeah, he's a mega talent.
He played with Trisha Yearwood. He was in Tanya Tucker's band.
I saw him play with Peter Frampton
Frampton
years ago.
And here's the thing: he plays upside down, left-handed, but he's right-handed.
He's right-handed, yes. I have heard that. But mega talent.
Yeah. So where are you guys playing at this weekend?
I'm performing with the Tyler Nichols Band. It's going to be at Stratford Hall, the BBQ Barbecue and Beer Festival. It's going to be a lot of fun. April 5th, Saturday. We hit the stage at 4 o'clock, so it'll be a fun time.
Cool.
And actually, as you're watching this is a hologram of me because I'm actually in Charlottesville at this point, playing at the Devil's Backbone. And then Friday, I'm in Virginia Beach at 615 with my cover rock band, Damn Straight. And then Saturday, I'm going to see Experience Hendrix in D.C. And Sunday, I'm playing at Star Hill, Tyson's Corner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Busy weekend.
You, Rich?
Well, you know me.
You keep the streak alive here,
keeping
Rich?
the streak alive, and I won't be doing
Rich
any
is
of
going
that.
to be peeling stickers off.
I'm going to be peeling stickers out. Well, I might write some directions on that.
There you go.
So
That'll
let's
keep
see.
you busy
Know
for the weekend
know
there.
to pull the sticker off of
And
that.
the directions are probably on the back. Let me just read the back of that. I'm like, remove sticker from face of sticker. For instruction 1, read instruction 2.
That's it. All right. So if you're enjoying the videos, please like the video, share the video. Please give us a comment. We're trying to get to 1,500 subscribers for Rock Talk. So please hit that subscribe button. Help us out a lot. Great. So have a great week. Peace.
This has been an episode of Volume 11 Rock Talk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music.